Once upon a time, there was a beautiful kingdom surrounded by flowing waterfalls, blooming flowers, and breathtaking beauty. The king was strong and wise. With him lived his queen, a soft-hearted and kind woman. They had a daughter named Princess Sophie. Princess Sophie was only 5 years old, but her manners and love won everyone's heart. The people in the palace said, "Our princess is like a fairy, beautiful and kind." Every morning, the princess would pick flowers in the palace garden, run after little butterflies, and go to her mother and say, "Mama Queen, look how beautiful this flower is." The queen would smile and say, "My princess is the most beautiful of all." But at that time, the queen was pregnant. But the queen harbored a hidden fear. One evening, as the sun was setting, the king stood on his balcony and, looking up at the sky, said, "This time a prince will definitely be born, our heir." The queen remained silent. She wondered, "Will the king be angry with me if I don't have a son?" She offered a small prayer. "Whatever happens, my child will be safe." The queen had a special maid in the palace. This maid stayed with her all the time. She took care of her, brought her medicine, water, and food. This maid was also pregnant. The queen trusted her completely because she was very loyal and good. The two women shared everything with each other. The maid would say, "Queen, everything will be fine. God is with you." The queen would say with a slight smile, "Just pray that everyone stays safe." Days passed, and the baby's birth time was drawing near. One night, the wind blew a little brighter in the palace. The sky was overcast. The light of a lamp flickered in the queen's room. A little while later, a small light shone inside the palace. The queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The queen looked at the baby. Tears welled in her eyes. She said in a soft voice, "Oh God, what will happen now?" The king wanted a prince. She trembled with fear. Just then, the maid was in the other room, and she too had given birth. It was a boy. When the queen learned of this, she called for the maid. The queen cried, "Maid, please listen to me. If the king finds out that the baby princess has been born, he will kill my innocent daughter. It's your baby boy. Please, for God's sake, exchange the babies." The maid stared at the queen in shock. "My queen, how can this be possible?" The queen cried, "I will. Save my princess. I will give you anything you want, but please get her away from this kingdom." The maid thought, "I will lose the baby, but I will save my queen's princess." She silently exchanged the babies. The queen placed gold coins in a small chest and handed it to the maid. The queen said, "Never come back after this night. Make my princess your daughter." Tears welled up in the maid's eyes. She lifted her baby princess into her arms and quietly left the palace. Only the queen and the maids in the palace knew what had happened. When the sun rose in the morning, the king received the news. "Congratulations! A healthy prince has been born." The king became very happy and said, "Finally our son has been born." Drums beat in the palace, songs and dances broke out. There was joy everywhere. Princess Sophie was also excited. "Queen, Mama, I want to see the baby." The queen smiled and said, "Yes, my princess, look, your brother, Prince Zane." Sophie looked at the baby and said, "Such a beautiful baby. I will take care of him." The queen placed her hand on his head, but sadness lingered in her heart. The king held a grand royal party. People from all over the kingdom came. The palace was decorated with gold, candles, and flowers. Dance performances began. Beautiful girls performed royal dances, and everyone congratulated the king. The king proudly announced, "This prince's name will be Prince Zane." Everyone applauded. The queen took the prince in her lap. She smiled, but her eyes were filled with tears. Her heart said, "Zane is not of my own blood, but my prayers will be with him." Meanwhile, the maid escaped from the palace in the dark of night. She crossed the forest and stopped in a small village far away. She looked at the baby princess and said lovingly, "Now you are my daughter. Your name will be Aurora." The maid took Aurora in her arms and began a new life. Aurora spent her days playing in the fields, playing with flowers, and laughing with the villagers. One day, when she returned home, she saw peacock feathers lying on the ground. Aurora picked them up and began playing with them. The maid asked, "Where did these feathers come from?" Aurora laughed and said, "They're beautiful. I'm playing a game with them." But when the maid looked closer, she noticed something strange. A small peacock feather was etched on Aurora's hand, shining in the golden light. The maid was astonished. Her heart began to pound. She said patiently, "Oh, my princess is a beautiful peacock." They both looked at each other, and a faint smile appeared on the maid's face. She hugged Aurora and said, "You're not just my daughter, you're a magical princess." Years passed. Seasons changed. Sometimes it rained, sometimes it snowed. Sometimes colorful flowers bloomed in the palace gardens. Over time, Prince Zane and his sister, Princess Sophie, grew up. Now, Princess Sophie was 18 years old. Her face was as radiant as the morning sun. Every morning, she would come out to her beautiful balcony, where the air was fragrant with flowers. Princess Sophie would pick up her flute and begin to play. The sound of her flute was so beautiful that it seemed as if the sky itself was smiling. She would play the flute and wish everyone would be happy with this melody. The sound of her flute could be heard throughout the kingdom, bringing peace to people's hearts. Every morning, her playing made the day even more beautiful. The people of the kingdom would say, "Our Princess Sophie's flute playing brings blessings to the entire palace." Princess Sophie was soft-hearted, kind, and polite. She never forgot to thank every servant. Every morning, she would feed the birds and water the flowers in the garden. On the other hand, Prince Zane had now become a young and handsome prince. His face was regal, with confidence in his eyes and an adventurous spirit in his heart. Every morning, he would go to his beautiful horse, place his hand on its head, and say, "Oh, Falada, come here, my friend." The horse would neigh happily and circle around Zane. The prince was very fond of birds. He didn't keep them caged. He painted them, fed them. His paintings adorned every wall, colorful, full of life. Now, on the other side, in a small village far away, Aurora had grown up. She had become a beautiful girl with a unique glow on her face. Aurora worked in the fields all day long. Her maid, who had now become her mother, was always with her. They would work together, picking flowers and laughing and talking with each other. Whenever Aurora touched a flower, it would shine even brighter. She possessed a strange magic. Sometimes, as she ran through the fields, beautiful peacock feathers would emerge from her body and sparkle in the air. Her mother would see this and smile, thinking, "My princess is not just a human being, but a magical creation." Sometimes, Aurora would stand alone in the field and dance like a peacock. There was elegance in her movements and shine in every step. But every time she danced, Mother would tell her, "Aurora, remember, never go to the kingdom. There's only danger there." Aurora would nod and say, "Okay, Mother, I won't go." But curiosity lingered in her heart. One morning, as the sun shone, Aurora noticed the peacock feather mark on her hand glowing slightly. She was amazed. She wondered, "Why is it glowing? Is someone calling me?" And she decided to go and see the kingdom once. She left her mother silently, crossed the forest, and reached palace. Around the palace was a market selling colorful fabrics, jewelry, and beautiful dresses. Aurora looked at every shop and exclaimed with joy, "How beautiful everything is!" Then, from a distance, she heard Princess Sophie's fluid voice. Her eyes lit up. What melody is this? So soft and beautiful. Aurora spread her arms and slowly began to dance. She danced like a peacock to the fluid rhythm. People stopped to stare at her as if a fairy had descended to earth. Before nightfall, she returned to the village. Her mother noticed she was late. "Aurora, you didn't check the time. I told you to come back soon," she said angrily. Aurora lowered her eyes and said, "Mother, forgive me. I just went to the market." Her mother held her hand. "This world isn't ours, Aurora. There's only danger there." Aurora fell silent, but kept thinking to herself, "I'll go there again the next day." Prince Zane picked up his bow and said, "Falada, let's go hunting today." He entered the forest. Meanwhile, this time Aurora, out of curiosity, transformed into her peacock form and headed towards the forest. She was wandering among the green mushrooms when suddenly her wings snapped in the dense vines. "I'm trapped!" Aurora cried out. "Please, someone help me!" Prince Zane heard the sound. He ran to the scene. He saw a peacock calling. He was amazed. A peacock calling. How could this be? He cut the vines and freed it. Aurora looked at him with her peacock eyes. "Thank you, Prince." Zane smiled and said, "I am Prince Zane, the prince of this kingdom. Who are you?" The peacock laughed. "I too can say I am human." Zane, surprised, said, "Really?" The peacock said, "I am joking." They both laughed. They went to the lake, drank water, and started talking. From that day on, they became friends. Every day, Zane came to the forest, and the peacock met him. The prince found talking to him very happy and peaceful. He thought, "This peacock is different, like talking to my soul." One day, they were sitting under a beautiful tree. Zane said, "Will you come with me to the palace?" The peacock asked, "What business do I have there?" Zane smiled. "I want to make a beautiful painting of you." The peacock thought for a while and said, "Okay, I'll go." They both went to the palace. The peacock saw the palace and thought to herself, "What a big and beautiful palace it is." She looked at Princess Sophie and smiled. "She looks exactly like me. Beautiful." Zane took her to his room. They both talked and laughed. Then the peacock said, "Come, watch me dance." She spread her feathers and started a peacock dance. Slow, graceful, and shining. Zane was mesmerized by her dance. He said, "You are magic." Then he picked up a brush and painted her beautifully. The peacock looked at her and smiled. But by then it was night. She said, "I have to go now." Zane said, "It's dark, don't go." The peacock remained silent, placed one of her feathers on the table, and quietly left the palace. When she reached the village, Mother was waiting. Mother said angrily, "Aurora, you didn't look at the time." "I told you to come back soon." Aurora told her in a frightened voice how she met the prince, went to the palace, and danced there. Mother said with amusement, "I told you not to go to the kingdom. If you go again, I won't talk to you." Aurora fell silent. Tears welled up in her eyes. She softly said, "Okay, Mother, I won't go now." And so Aurora suppressed her heart, but the story wasn't over yet. The prince, on the other hand, still had the peacock feather. Every day he went to the forest, but the peacock was nowhere to be seen. His heart was filled with sorrow. He sat alone in his room, staring at the feather. His eyes flashed back to the day he had first spoken to the peacock. At night, when everyone was asleep, he looked at the painting he had made of the peacock on his table. With a slight smile, he said, "I wish I could see you again." One day, as he sat dejectedly in his room, Princess Sophie came in. Princess Sophie said, "Zane, you didn't go to the forest today." Prince Zane softly replied, "No, I don't want to go today. That peacock is nowhere to be found, and I can't forget it. No, my heart doesn't want it." Princess Sophie looked with surprise at a talking peacock. "You love it." Prince Zane smiled and said, perhaps his words, his smile, everything touched her heart. Princess Sophie laughed and said, "You've gone crazy. Come, let me help you. We'll find it." They both mounted their horses and rode off toward the forest. Princess Sophie began playing her flute, the same flute whose tune was famous throughout the kingdom. Meanwhile, Aurora, who was on her farm, heard the flute's beautiful voice. Her heart began to pound. Forgetting her mother's words, she transformed into a peacock and ran toward the forest. He ran so fast that she immediately reached the spot where Prince Zane and Princess Sophie were standing. As soon as Zane saw her, he shouted with joy, "You've come!" He ran forward and grabbed her. The peacock said, "Let me go, please." But the prince said, "No, I won't let you go this time." He took her to the palace and had a beautiful room built for her. That night, when the prince came to give her dinner, he saw a beautiful girl standing in the room. He was astonished. "Who are you?" the girl said. "I am that peacock." Zane, not believing her, said, "You're lying. How could such a beautiful girl be a peacock?" But when he saw her golden feather mark, he understood. A voice from his heart said, "Whoever you are my beloved peacock." He looked at her and smiled slightly. On the other side, Aurora's mother noticed that it was night and she hadn't arrived yet. Her heart was filled with fear. She searched everywhere for her. But when she couldn't find her anywhere, she rushed to the palace, crying. There she fell before the queen and said, "Queen, the daughter you gave me years ago is lost." The queen, shocked, asked, "What are you saying?" The maid began crying and told the truth. That baby was the Peacock Princess. Princess Sophie, listening in from behind, opened her eyes. She said, "That peacock was my sister." Her heart was filled with sorrow, and without thinking, she ran towards the palace garden where Aurora was sit. Princess Sophie embraced her and, crying, said, "My sister, my peacock princess." Aurora was shocked. "Am I really a princess?" Princess Sophie led her to the queen and said, "Mama, here is your daughter." The queen's tears welled up. She embraced Aurora and said, "Forgive me, my daughter. I was just a mother who was scared." Just then the king arrived. Guilt was etched on his face. He said, "Because of me, my daughter was away from me for years." Princess Aurora ran and hugged the king and said, "Father, everything is fine now." The king cried and said, "Now I have 2 daughters. Both are my pride." Prince Zane smiled and said, "No, father, I only have 1 sister. Princess Sophie, this is my peacock princess." Everyone laughed. The queen decided to marry them, Prince Zane and Princess Aurora. Joy filled the entire kingdom. At night, the palace was filled with lights and song. There was dancing, smiles, and celebration everywhere. Princess Aurora stood on the balcony. Moonlight fell on her face. She looked into the distance. The breeze was caressing her hair. Just then, Prince Zane arrived and said softly, "What are you thinking, my peacock princess?" Aurora smiled. "I'm just thinking about it. You fell in love with a peacock. What a strange thing that is." Zane laughed and said, "Love is never strange. It's just beautiful." They looked at each other, smiled slightly, and on a moonlit night, from the kingdom's balcony with the breeze, their love story was immortalized. If you enjoy this story, please like it and subscribe my channel and leave a sweet comment. Thank you.